Good morning. I'm Lee Anderson, chair of the parish committee here at First Parish, and we're glad you're here. We welcome you to our beautiful sanctuary and also to those online on Zoom. And we have a special welcome to visitors. We invite you to join us downstairs for coffee and conversation or community time following the service on Zoom. And I have a special welcome. We have a guest preacher today, and that is Ellyn Ruthstrom. She has been the executive director of SpeakOUT Boston for 10 years and has been active as an LGBTQ plus advocate for over 30 years. She was president of the Bisexual Resource Center for 10 years and was a state commissioner with the Massachusetts LGBTQ Youth Commission. So we welcome her to our service and look forward to hearing. We also welcome members of the youth group and their teachers from the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Westport, Connecticut. I don't see them yet, but they may come in during the service, so just know that we hosted them for 2 overnights, Friday and Saturday night, and they came to the Boston area to understand Boston's influence and this area's influence on Unitarian Universalism and vice versa. And we thank Beth Cliff, who suggested that our congregation serves as a host. So Beth used to be a member of First Parish in Wayland, and now she's at the Westport, Connecticut Church. If you have questions about, let's see. Our mission is to build community, search for meaning, deepen our spirituality, and to make a better world. If you have questions about First Parish or Unitarian Universalism, someone from our membership team will be at the welcome table during coffee hour to greet you and answer any questions. And Reverend Lisa, who's away this week, and Kata Holland, who is here, our Director of Lifespan Education, are also available after the service and would love to meet with you. A big thanks to all our other service participants whose names are in the order of service. And please remember to silence your cell phones. Please join me now in taking a moment to say hello to one another, including a wave to those online at the camera on the wall over here. And now I'd like to ask Helen Green and John Thompson to make a special announcement from the Ministerial Search Committee.
Well, obviously, I'm John, and this is Helen. There you go. Who's on first? No. I'm on first. We've really rehearsed this well. I'll let you run first.
Oh, I'm on first. I'm on first. Sorry about that. John's on second, and you're all on third. Okay. Well, we're members of the search committee. We've been working real hard to gather some information that we have to put together to a package for the applicants as they consider First Parish for our settled minister.
Part of the process with UUA is to make sure that we're hearing from everybody in the congregation. Part of the process is to attend a cottage meeting. If you are already invited to or attending a focus group, and we're doing a few focus groups around specific issues such as parents of school-aged children, that kind of thing, fundraising, a few other ones. We still want you to come to a cottage meeting. You need to come both a cottage meeting and a focus group if you're involved in a focus group. Where am I? A cottage meeting is an opportunity to interact with others through conversation and sharing of ideas in a very small group setting. These meetings build on the survey and help us to dive deeper into key topics and be more specific about what you would like to see in a minister.
The survey that you're going to fill out, that we're going to nag you about, the cottage meetings, which we're also going to nag you about, and the focus groups are very important parts of finding a new minister. And taken together, they help to write the narrative of First Parish and create a clear picture of our congregation. To ensure that we have accurate a portrait of what we are, we want everyone to do at least 2 of those 3 things. And we want everyone's thoughts and hopes and expectations about who we are, and where we want to go in the future.
If you have private thoughts, ideas, suggestions, questions, please feel free to email the committee at search@uuwayland.org. And we do want to hear from you.
Links to both the survey and the cottage meetings are in the October newsletter. They're also come out in the e-blast. And on the back of your orders of service, for those of you who are here in person, there's a code that you can scan and do the survey as well. The links to that is not going to get you to the cottage meetings. Those you'll have to get from another link. They're not in, that link doesn't do that. So now I'd like to introduce Susie and Brad Keys to come forward to light the chalice. Susie just reminded me there are some sign-up sheets downstairs for the cottage meetings for those of you who are here and have not signed up for one. We'll nag you at college. We're going to nag you at coffee hour about that too.
Good morning. With open minds and loving hearts, we gather to search for meaning, to care for one another, and to work together for a better world.
I would also like to light the rainbow candle in recognition of National Coming Out Day.
Good morning. This morning's opening words come from Mary Oliver, her poem, The Journey. One day you finally knew what you had to do and began. Though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice, though the whole house began to tremble, and you felt the old tug at your ankles. Mend my life, each voice cried, but you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do. Though the wind pried with its stiff fingers at the very foundations, though their melancholy was terrible, it was already late enough and a wild night, and the road full of fallen branches and stones. But little by little, as you left their voices behind, the stars began to burn through the sheets of clouds, and there was a new voice, which you slowly recognized as your own, that kept you company as you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do, determined to save the only life you could save. And now we will sing hymn 1053, How Could Anyone, which is in the teal hymnal. Please stand as willing and able.
Good morning. My name is Kate Holland. I'm the Director of Lifespan Education here at First Parish, and my pronouns are she and her. So this morning I have a story to share with you, and it's a true story. So has anybody ever been to the Central Park Zoo? There you go, a few of you have. Well, in Central Park there is a beautiful zoo that has lots and lots of lovely animals, and lots of families in those animals. And in the penguin section, there was something special that happened there. So there were two penguins, Roy and Silo, and they were both boys. And when it came time for there to be pairing, for there to be babies and eggs in the penguin area, Roy and Silo chose each other. They chose to sing together, to have a nest together and sleep in the nest together, to swim together. Wherever Roy went, Silo went too. And so they made their nest together when they saw the other couple starting to make nests together. And they made it smooth and beautiful so that they would have a place for them to be together. Well, as they watched the other couples, they realized that there was something that the other couples could do that they could not. And that was the couple started having eggs. And they took care of those eggs, making sure to sit on them to keep them warm. And when one of them needed to go and eat, the other one would come and take care of them. And eventually, after time, the eggs would crack open, and what do you think was inside? A baby penguin, right? And so the couples would take care of their baby penguins. They would care for them and teach them how to sing when they were hungry. They would teach them how to swim and take care of themselves until they were ready to be on their own. Well, Roy and Silo one day decided, Silo brought home a stone, and it was smooth and it was kind of oval shape, and he put it in the nest, and it kind of looked like an egg. And so they sat on the rock for a while, and when they had, one of them was tired, the other would come and sit on the rock, and they did it day after day after day. And sadly, there was no baby chick at the end of it. Well, one of the zookeepers had been watching what was going on with Roy and Silo and had a great idea. When he found an egg that no one had, that wouldn't fit into another nest, he decided he would give it to Roy and Silo. Well, they sat on that egg and they turned it to make sure it stayed warm on all the sides. They took turns so that when one was tired, the other would come. And they waited and they waited. And one day, from inside the egg, they heard beep, beep, beep. They were so excited. They made sounds back to call to the egg. And soon the egg broke open and there was a baby chick in there. They were so excited that they taught that baby chick. They taught that chick how to cry when they were hungry. They fed that chick from their beaks. They went swimming with them, and they taught them how to take care of themselves. Because, you know, a family doesn't have to always look the same. So one of the reasons I told this story, which I love, is because, sadly, it's from a book called And Tango Makes Three, because the baby's name was Tango. And so the reason I told this story is because, sadly, this book about two penguins who loved each other and had a baby together is banned in a lot of states in this country. And it can't be, if it's banned, it can't be in a library that's a public library. It can't be in a public school. And it can't even be in a classroom for a teacher to hold on to and say to the children. And that makes me really sad, because so many people and the ideas of how they can love and it doesn't have to look the same aren't being told. So the stories we tell to each other, the histories, and the stories in storybooks about penguins even, are really important that we keep telling and telling and telling again. So thank you for sharing my story. I'm going to ask you to sing Gariamos Orie, which is 390 in your hymnals, if you're still not quite sure how to sing that. The words are in there. And I'm going to invite my friends to come down to our Seek classroom today. So thank you very much.
I am Kathy Schmidt. My pronouns are she, hers, and I'm a lay minister of this congregation. This is a time in our service we set aside to acknowledge the joys and sorrows that we all hold. In both our sharing and in our witness, we affirm our covenant to care for one another. I will begin by lighting a vigil candle in recognition of the pain and suffering experienced around the world due to ongoing war and violence. May this small act help us unite in our prayer for the end to all suffering. If you have a personal joy or sorrow you would like to share, please feel free to come forward or raise your hand and I will bring the mic to you. Light one final candle for those joys and sorrows not spoken today. May we hold in our hearts those who have spoken, those they have named. Marianne McDougall was, we all have such good memories of her. I used to call her husband Mr. Marianne. Those they have named and those we hold in silence. May it be so. Please remain seated and quietly sing Spirit of Life, which is hymn 123 in your blue hymnal. This is a time in our service when we invite your generosity for the support of our congregation. The offering we give each other is a symbol of our commitment to this community and to the free faith of this church. We receive it gratefully with appreciation for our community and all that sustains us. If you are here for the first time, please let the plate pass you by. You are our guest today. You may place your offering in the plate as it comes around, or give by text or online. The giving instructions are in your order of service. The offering will now be given and gratefully received.
beautiful music. That was amazing. Thank you so much. Good morning again. I'm Ellyn Ruthstrom. I use she, her pronouns. And this morning's reading comes from an excerpt of Coming Out or Letting In, Recasting the LGBT Narrative by Robert Espinosa. The coming out narrative relies on a series of tropes, an early awareness of sexual or gender difference, years of navigating an intricate web of lies and codes, the fear of being discovered and rejected, and then one day the catharsis of confession. We can observe this in news stories, movement history, recorded bravely and painfully across the decades, literature, and entertainment. The coming out narrative maps our self-discovery, courage, disclosure, and affirmation. The caterpillar turns into the butterfly, and eventually it flies. The choice to disclose one's sexuality or gender identity can also be ethically gray territory. Consider a transgender person who prefers not to disclose a transgender status and instead pass as male or female. Or consider LGBT people who manage secret lives in the workplace for fear of losing their job security or worse. Is that valid? It might not. It might also be that desire becomes more nuanced as we mature, and notions of privacy and identity become more profound, especially in a social media world. If we allow ourselves to mark which people see certain posts on social media, shouldn't we be allowed to exclude certain people from our queer lives? On this latter point, I level my critiques carefully. While I affirm a person's sexual and gender autonomy, as well as the importance of weighing the consequences of coming out, my activist heart lies with those who continually risk their well-being for society's benefit, and my existence owes a great deal to my elders and ancestors who lived and died for my right to live openly. But if our goals are to change minds and shift policies, and we recognize the power of storytelling in that pursuit, then perhaps we need a new dialectic. A colleague suggests that we reframe coming out as letting in, as in letting others into our lives. He reasons that letting in better manages fluidity and the people we love. The letting in frame allows for agency over what to disclose to whom and when, in gradations, without assuming a fixed identity or that a private life conflicts with a public persona. If coming out is a confession, then letting in is a communion. We share our life stories, not just our secrets. But storytelling changes minds, not necessarily politics. I propose that we think of coming out or letting in as a time for all of us to reflect on questions about the type of world we want to inhabit. What are the ways in which you've felt restrained by society's expectations regarding sex and gender? Did you ever meet someone who changed your life course and rattled you to your core? What are the sources and consequences of stigma, discrimination, rejection, violence, and criminalization? Come out today as someone who will help rid society of these conditions. Because whether we term it coming out, coming to terms, coming to consciousness, or letting people in, we must ultimately correct what repressed us in the first place.
There is a place
Thank you so much for inviting Speak Out to participate in your service today to help mark National Coming Out Day with your congregation. Speak Out's mission sees the organization as a community of speakers and volunteers working to create a world free of bias and prejudice by telling the truths of LGBTQ+ lives. My two favorite words in our mission are truths, multiple, not one, and community, again, because it is based on many of us working together. Our organization creates an empowering space for LGBTQ+ people and our allies to use something as basic as our lived experience to build bridges with our audiences and deepen understanding of queer lives. One of my intentions this morning as I speak with you about the liberatory power of retelling LGBTQ+ stories is to bring into this space the voices of those I work with on a daily basis who give freely of their own time to tell and retell their own personal stories so that others may understand a queer perspective, so that others may become allies and make life easier for those who come after us. That is one of the remarkable things that I have witnessed, the deep desire of Speak Out speakers to have their own stories change the world for the better. They want the pain that they have experienced to help transform the understanding and behavior of others, to help prevent pain in the future for other queer community members. I shared Mary Oliver's The Journey this morning because it evokes for me a common coming out experience. Determined to do the one thing you could do, determined to save the only life you could save. Within the queer community, it is not uncommon to say, coming out saved my life, or transitioning saved my life. Others may consider these statements hyperbolic, but when push comes to shove, many a queer person has felt like the option is either to end it all, the harshest and worst option imaginable, or to make a life-altering change that you don't know how it will turn out. There's even medical evidence that shows how coming out can save your physical as well as mental health. A fairly recent study from the University of Montreal found that gay, lesbian, and bisexual people who were already out had lower levels of stress indicators than those who were still in the closet. And the Journal of Adolescent Health found that trans teens had fewer episodes of suicidal ideation and depressive symptoms when they used their chosen name and not their given name. Robert Paul Juster, the lead researcher on the University of Montreal study, said, coming out is no longer a matter of popular debate, but a matter of public health. Now, my own coming out experience was not like this. It didn't feel do or die, and I am grateful for that. I had had good relationships with men when I was in my late 20s and early 20s, and I thought of myself as straight. I fell in love when I was 20 years old with the man who would become my husband a few years later, and our relationship spanned the next decade for me. He was a Brit, and we met while I was studying in England. We maintained a long-distance relationship while I was finishing my degree in the States, and then I lived off and on in the UK where I would work illegally to support myself while living there until we married. On this side of the pond, while I was living in DC, I had my first sexual experience with another woman, a close friend of mine, and I told Ellyn about it. It did not challenge my love for him or the desire to be in our relationship at that time, but I knew that my sexuality was no longer straight. We had a monogamous marriage, and it wasn't until we eventually parted ways and divorced that I opened up my dating pool to a wider range of people. It felt organic to me, an evolution that made sense. And it was then that I started coming out to my family and my friends as bisexual. I feel lucky that I didn't lose anyone close to me once I did come out to them. And I only have myself to blame for a friend I did lose because of my own fear of her rejection of me, So instead, I let our friendship peter away, and I still regret that. That's the power of the closet. Though it also was not without its problems. The hardest thing for me as a newbie was realizing that as a bisexual, I was not readily accepted by a lot of others within the gay and lesbian world, especially back in the late 80s and early 90s when I was stepping into the community. I've experienced a lot of biphobia over the years within my beloved LGBTQ+ community, and I have done a lot of educating across the different letters of the acronym to hopefully make it a more inclusive space for all of us. It has definitely improved over the decades, but I would venture to guess that most people do not know that proportionally, bisexuals make up an estimated 56% of the queer community, and an even higher percentage within younger generations. So if that do or die feeling wasn't what I felt when I came out, why would I evoke that feeling with Mary Oliver's imagery, determined to save the only life you could save? I think it's because my own role as the executive director of SpeakOUT Boston, the nation's oldest speakers bureau for the queer community. I sometimes tell my own story in the course of my work, but my main purpose is to get as many other speakers out into the community as possible to tell their stories. I see my role as the nurturer of those stories, those panels of speakers. Trying to define my role to you today, I even toyed with the concept of a storytelling doula, but that felt like I was reaching too far to give it a more stature than may be true. Yet I do feel responsible for preparing our speakers to tell their best story possible, and to ensure that the experience is a valuable and safe one for them. I help them shape their story, to pull out the details that will make their experience come alive for others and leave an impression, and to withhold some of the details of their story, what we call hooks, so that our audiences want to ask more questions. I asked a number of our speakers to share their feelings with me, and thus with you, about Coming Out Day and the experience of sharing their stories with others through SpeakOUT. I want to thank those members for allowing me to share their words with you today. Mary, a longtime ally who recently came out as bisexual, said, "Coming Out Day gives us a way to annually celebrate a life event that is as important as a birthday or a marriage, but doesn't always happen on a single day that our family and friends all recognize." I like that a lot because it designates and elevates the day as a holiday for our community, something we can share as an occasion, even if our experiences can be vastly different. And supportive straight allies can mark the event as well, as we do today. Joseph has been speaking with us for over 4 years, and he told me, Coming Out Day is not just a day. It's a celebration of truth, love, and empowerment. It's an opportunity for those on their journey of self-acceptance to realize that embracing their authentic selves is the greatest gift they can give to the world. For me, it's a powerful reminder that our stories matter, and each time someone comes out, it strengthens the collective fabric of the LGBTQ+ community. Joseph's words really convey that liberatory experience of sharing one's truth with others, and that one person's story is built on the stories of others and will in turn help those in the future. Each generation, each person interconnected with each other. One of our newer non-binary speakers, Steph, shared this perspective. Coming Out Day is about visibility. It's about not being a secret to those who have no idea you exist. But more importantly, to be visible to young people who need access to stories that allow them to see their future selves. This day of visibility gives all of us hands to hold as we evolve into our best selves. I love that image, that we have our holding hands. I do think that Coming Out Day is a really important day for queer youth. It not only provides a space to come out in if they choose, but it gives them an opportunity to witness others coming out. It's kind of like when you're trying something risky, like diving off the high board for the first time. You might need to observe a whole bunch of other people do it before you try it. And you might also need to go up to the diving board and feel it out, seeing if you're ready, and it's okay to wait for the right moment. I also want to recognize that not everyone has a rainbows and unicorns view of either the power of coming out or the reification of coming out day. One of our speakers, Anderson, shared this with me. Even though coming out can be freeing and empowering, it can also be stressful, heartbreaking, and even dangerous. When I came out at work as trans, the entire process required an incredible input of resources from multiple departments, managers, and HR, which made me uncomfortable and shined an unwelcome spotlight on me. When I came out to family and friends, it required a significant input of emotion and angst on my part. And the fact that I must repeatedly come out in my life with unknown consequences is annoying at best. I'd like to see a time when coming out day becomes obsolete. Anderson's remarks link back for me to the essay I read earlier about coming out or letting in. I think Robert Espinosa was also commenting on the difficulty of the action of coming out, as if we are making an entrance onto someone else's stage, and they get to determine the lighting and the sound system for us. I hear that echo in Anderson's experience of having to be vulnerable and drawing attention to himself in ways that were extremely uncomfortable for him. Espinosa's proposal to reframe it as a letting in allows the person to stay more in control and to construct their own stage, or their own home base, if you will. Most of us would agree that you have the right to determine who you let into your own home. It is often noted how much a story can affect others. I've seen countless nonprofit seminars that teach you how to tell your organization's story or the story of one of your constituents in order to get people to understand the organization's purpose. More recently, when Kamala Harris introduced herself at the Democratic Convention, pundits talked about how important it was for her to share her origin story with Americans so they would be better able to connect with her. Hearing another person's story can be a profoundly moving experience. It is the basis, I dare say, of every sermon ever written. If I share these insights with you, they will enlighten you and perhaps even change you. One of our trans speakers, Jamie, very much wants to affect change through her story. Every time I do a SpeakOUT event, I bare my soul and my most personal struggles to complete strangers in hopes that I can connect with just one person in the position I was in, so that they may hear someone who has been there and made it through tell them that it will be okay, that there is hope, and that there is community on the other side. I love talking to allies who want to be there for their friends and children. I love speaking at churches because the church I grew up in and their pastor, my father, do not accept who I am. I love speaking at corporate events so that I can highlight how important a supportive work environment dramatically influences a person's life and well-being. Our stories are powerful, our stories make a difference. So yes, coming out to others does have positive impact on the way they view and understand LGBTQ+ people. But I also get to witness the impact that the telling and retelling of one's personal story has upon the storytellers themselves. I have seen this play out time and time again with the volunteers who come to a speaker training. Some may begin by doubting that their story is valuable enough to tell to others. Some may be afraid of what they will need to reveal in order to make their story make sense. Others have been holding back their story for so long that it is a hugely cathartic experience when they tell it to someone else. And yes, we do have plenty of boxes of tissues on hand for those trainings. Amber, one of our speakers, shared this with me. When I began to put my experiences into words, I wasn't sure that anything I said would resonate with others, but I've learned that I was wrong. Telling my story has allowed me to connect with people in ways I never anticipated. Depending on the audience and the topics at hand, I highlight different parts of my journey, and I continue to learn how impactful it can be. It's also been an opportunity for me to really slow down and examine who I am and the experiences that shaped me. I think one of the best parts of my job is to witness our speakers grow in confidence and in self-awareness over time as they step before a variety of audiences. This is why I used the word retelling in my title and not just telling. The sharing of your story for the first time can be an epiphany and a turning point. But the retelling really opens up one's own ability to interpret your own life's path. We like to say at SpeakOUT trainings that repeatedly sharing your story is not therapy, but it is therapeutic. Trevor has been speaking with us for over 5 years, and he put it this way: I don't know about other speakers, but for me, being given the opportunity to talk about what makes me who I am is a gift. It is letting me revisit and work through issues that I had buried, and is letting me deal with the emotions that bubble up from that in a new and constructive way. In closing, let me return to Mary Oliver's poem. But little by little, as you left their voices behind, the stars began to burn through the sheets of clouds, and there was a new voice, which you slowly recognized as your own. That is the power of retelling your story, recognizing your own voice and letting the others that no longer serve you fall away. Coming out may save your life. Retelling your story may help to save your community. Thank you.
This is not in the script, but I want to thank Ellyn for coming out today and sharing all of these stories, which just show us all that we are all human in this life together. Please join me in our chalice extinguishing words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, or the community, or the fire of commitment. Those carry in our hearts and out into the world until we are together again. Please rise as you are willing or able and join us in singing hymn 1014 in the teal hymnal. And I do want to remind you that while it says standing on the side of love, it is now known as answering the call of love. Since this book was printed, the UUA Disability Justice Group changed the wording. And also for some of our visitors, just be aware that on the final verse, we do turn around and face the exit door.
of hopes and fears, paths passed up and others taken through the passage of the years. Every person is a story, with lessons learned and missed, travails endured and sorrows, and every joy that forms its gist. Every person is a story, full of beginnings and of ends. And every life's another page in the dream that never ends. Every person is a story, and every story is true. The best we can do for one another is to remember how the other flew.